Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll Venmo you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network, sponsored by Full Pull Wines and our subscribers. We're recording on Monday, May 18th, 2026. I am your host, Jermiah Shan. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Aaron Campo, and our engineer, Lickett. Streaks, they say, are meant to be broken, but in the sage words of that one lady from The Matrix, not like this. What was a good chance to take advantage of a tired and frankly bad Galaxy team instead turned into probably the most disappointing result of the season as the Sounders fell 2-0 at home. The loss ended their 22-match unbeaten run, marked the first time in the Brian Schmetzer era that they'd lost to the Galaxy at home, and ended a 9-match unbeaten streak in league play. While they didn't lose much ground in the Supporter Shield race, it was also a missed opportunity to move up in the standings. All in all, not great, Aaron.
Not great, and kind of a bummer because it felt like after the San Jose result midweek, we were going to have some nice stuff to talk about. I fully expected the Sounders to beat the Galaxy, and I think that's two really good results to put back to back, and so I was excited. And then the game happened, and it's tough to focus on the positives from that San Jose game, and there were quite a few of them when you can't get it done against a pretty mediocre Galaxy team, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And
they're mediocre. That's like
right.
like they're 5-4-5, I think. 5-5-4 or something like that.
Yeah. And you got to beat those teams at home. You got to beat the Galaxy at home. You got to beat San Diego at home. And, the Sounders, like you said, they're still in the thick of things. They're not out of the Supporter Shield race by any stretch of the imagination. But after a start where it felt like, hey, this might be the best Sounders team of all time, we've had, a run of the last
pretty mediocre results.
Yeah. The last 4 games, you got the good win against San Jose, but I think you looked at those 4 games and could pretty easily talk yourself into getting 10 points out of those 4, and you get 5. You get 5 points out of those 4 games, and that's not not great.
No, and to your point, the one win is probably on paper was the toughest game of the 4.
Absolutely.
I think we all chalked up Sporting Kansas City as a win. I think we chalked up San Diego probably as a win. I was prepared mentally to maybe even lose the San Jose game. And then the Galaxy game for sure I thought was going to be a win. So, even in my sort of not worst case scenario, but in my more pessimistic scenario, I was thinking, okay, 9 points would be acceptable. But 10 points was really a good target, I think, for this stretch of games. To get 5 is not good, and it's a testament to MLS that everyone else around the Sounders seems to be going through similar struggles all of a sudden at the same time. But yeah, even if you take that attitude that, well, it's not so bad because everyone else is dropping points too, it's, best case scenario, these are missed opportunities, and these are points that they they should be winning. And these are games that they, last year or earlier this year, we've been talking a lot about how these results stacked up against last year's results in a fixture by fixture basis. And now they've lost to they tied Sporting Kansas City. So you lost 2 points there. They tied San Diego. So that was a win. The home game was a win last year. They, beating San Jose was just holding serve, and they tied the Galaxy at home last year. And what's even more annoying is that some of these results were, you should take them for granted. Like these are not the points you were expecting to drop. And so I don't know. I'm frustrated by all those perspectives. But then also like the Galaxy game just wasn't a good game. Like
no,
even in the San Diego game, especially, I think I was okay with the result because they came back. I think San Diego is actually a pretty decent team. But Galaxy are not that good. They were at the end of a 3-game road trip where they traveled from LA to Atlanta to Kansas City to Seattle. So this is a team that's been traveling back and forth across the country, got to be tired, got to be on mental, looking for a mental break. And the Sounders just did not get it done in any way, shape, or form against the Galaxy. They created some chances, but nothing. They weren't dominant by any stretch. They lost the XG battle. It wasn't a good performance.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I think that it's pretty easy to look at the Sporting KC result, the San Diego result, and say, probably should have won those games. Maybe that's not good enough. I think especially in the Sporting KC game, you should beat them soundly enough that there's no, probably should have won that game.
Right.
But San Diego, I think especially the Sounders were a much better team in that game, and I think got really unlucky. There's none of that in this Galaxy game. Galaxy deserved to win. And this is a team, speaking of that really bad Sporting Kansas City team, this is a team that had just lost to them 3-1. Right? Like, this is not a good Galaxy team.
No, they've lost twice to Kansas City this year.
Yeah. And you've just got to win these games at home. And I know they had rotation, and I know that there was not a roll down in the starting 11. And I know they had an injury early in the game. And I just don't care. Like you have to beat these teams at home, and you certainly cannot lose to them. And it's a tough way to go into this stretch where you don't have a game until July. You don't have another home game until the Timbers on July 18th. You've got one more game, and then I think that game on July 18th is the next game, right? So
yeah, and they can restore some goodwill by beating LAFC on the road, but that's not a gimme. I mean, LAFC has been struggling, but that's historically a really tough. That's one of the toughest fixtures the Sounders have on their schedule every year,
right?
And so to expect them to win that game, I think is expecting a lot. But let's not even get into that. You're right. Like they should be flying into this break, and best case scenario, they are, maybe not stumbling, but they're certainly not flying into this break. But you mentioned the rotation there, and I think the Sounders, we've sung their praises a lot as far as their depth, and I think part of that is that they can afford to rotate. But I do think there was maybe Brian Spencer got a little too cute with this one.
Yeah.
And I really like the potential of Peter Kingston at right back. I don't know that lining him up against Joseph Paintsil was putting him in a position to succeed. And granted, Brian maybe doesn't like, I would have expected the Galaxy to rotate more than they did, but I think it also speaks to how desperate the Galaxy were to get a result here.
Yeah.
And, I don't blame the result on Kingston by any stretch, but he was not a particularly positive factor offensively. He made a couple okay defensive plays, but he also looked, Brian Spencer said he looked a little timid at times defensively, especially after he got his yellow card. And the Sounders did look better once Kalani came in the second half. And Kalani was clearly a much better matchup for Joseph Paintsil. And I can't help but wonder if the result would have been a little better if Kalani had started.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question to ask. I think that it's tricky because I think there is some value to the sink or swim mentality, right? Of being like, all right, let's see. This is a tough assignment for you. You've looked good in substitutes minutes. Let's see what you can do. But when you're having to make the change at halftime to, it's
Yeah. And also, like, as much as Kingston has looked good in his minutes, when he's played on the wing, it's always been when they're chasing a goal. He's
Right.
never been asked to be like
right.
Like anything like a traditional right back. And
Right.
and so he's never really had to defend the way that he was going to be asked to defend in this game. And again, I like Kingston a lot. I just don't think this was putting him in the best position to succeed. And they didn't have to. Kalani Kosarienzi might be the player singularly most capable of playing, 3 games a week.
Right.
And to not use him there just felt like, again, it just felt a little too cute.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think that, I mean, it worked out, so it's tough to be too critical. But I think starting Jordan against the Galaxy, who like to play deep and counterattack, and sitting him against the Earthquakes, who like to play a really high line and leave a lot of space in behind, that's a decision I'm not super sure about. Jordan wasn't really gonna do a whole lot on the wing in this game, I don't think, and then getting moved to center forward after the Moose injury when the Galaxy back, I think already had the lead, and then back. Yeah, I don't really know what we're doing there, to be honest with you. I think that the lack of consistency with the attacking group is, I think, a problem at this point. I'm willing to say, like, I know that they've had some success this year. They've scored goals at home. Their attack has looked pretty good at home at times. For the most part, not even at times. For the most part, they've looked very good attacking at home. But this was a game where it just kind of looked like none of these guys had ever played together before. And that's not really what you want to see at this point in the season. So yeah, I would love to see a little bit of stability and a little bit of consistency in the attacking group. And obviously you've got to rotate sometimes, but I mean, I can't imagine they're really having to manage Jordan's minutes that much at this point. He's been back for 6 weeks now.
I think they could have probably played him against San Jose and sat him against the Galaxy as easily as they ended up, as easily as what they did do.
That too. Yeah.
And the early sub doesn't help things, I suppose. And it did look like Danny was finding some, he was able to get behind the Galaxy back line a couple times. He had actually a great look on a pass from Jordan Morris that, again, if he scores that, it's potentially a very different game. And then literally in that same possession, they recycle possession, and he gets hit from sort of behind, and John Nelson's face looks like it hits his tooth, and his tooth pops out, which I can only assume is a veneer, because your front tooth should not pop out that easily. Normally, as someone who has injured their face multiple times, that's not usually how that goes. So I hope that it was a veneer, and so that it's relatively easy to replace, because otherwise that's a pretty dramatic injury. But
early, yeah.
It was, that seemed to put a damper in things. Did you think that should have been a penalty, though?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's sort of how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to complain if they get it. I'm not going to feel guilty if they get the penalty. But
I've certainly seen that type of play given, but it's not a for sure penalty.
I definitely, it's one that I would be very happy if it was never given as a penalty again.
Sure.
I would take that trade-off to see, okay, you don't get the benefit of these anymore, but neither does your opposition. I would be happy with that. Because I just don't think I don't think that there was an opportunity there to score. And I don't think there was any, I think it was just more, guy going up for a header and losing control a little bit of his body. Yeah. It's not a foul anywhere else on the field, I don't think so. But if we can go back in a time machine and they want to give the penalty, like I said, I'm not going to complain. Because this game did feel like a game where the sounder, it was everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face kind of thing, where
sometimes
sometimes literally, right? And it really did feel like the goal and having to make the sub early, that was just kind of curtains, which is uncharacteristic of this team, but it just never felt like they were getting back into this one, I don't think.
Yeah, they really did struggle to get back into the game after that. They started, it was 5 minutes in, so I don't want to over index on that, but they looked good to start, and they were active. I don't want to make it sound like this is a lethargic performance. but they just had nothing going forward until, really until the second half, I want to say. And, to the degree that they did have anything going, it was mostly, Paul Arriola getting fouled. Like Paul Arriola made a nice move, got fouled right outside the box. They had a decent look at a free kick on that one. They don't do much with it. He gets fouled again later on in the half. And then they tried this kind of stupid routine that I don't know why they are like, if you're if you're that close to goal, don't pull off. You don't need to pull off a routine. Like, you could say those for corners. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't love that, and it didn't come off. So I guess that makes it worse. But they just didn't have anything in the attack going forward from Moose's injury until the second half. And then they bring in Kalani, and to the Sounders' credit, it did feel a lot better in the second half. Probably their best look of the whole half came around, I want to say the 55th minute, maybe, or maybe it was later than that. But Jesus Ferreira played in a really nice ball to Arriola at the back post. Oh, I guess this must have been like this almost the 60th minute because he came off right after. But he plays just a gorgeous ball to Arriola at the back post. It looks like he's got a free header, and somehow JT Marcinkowski gets his hand up, like just kind of throwing his hands up, happens to deflect it out. And so that's a little unfortunate. But if that's your only real good scoring chance, that's what are you going to do, right? Like, the Sounders XG ends up being respectable, but this is one of those games where I think single game XG can be a little deceiving because they did not have a whole bunch of good chances. I think they were credited with 2 big chances. That was that one, and then
just one on FUTMOB.
Oh, just one. Well, there you go. So that might have been the only one. And then they had, so they just did not generate much real, genuine scoring threats. They had a couple little moments where, Albert Rusnak forces a decent save by Marcinkowski off like a 35-yard free kick. But like 35-yard free kicks are just not like the math there doesn't usually add up.
Right.
You got to hit it so hard and so perfect that it's very rarely going to go in. And then, the other decent look, I suppose, was who was it? It was Rothrock sending it to Morris in the box, and he's double teamed like in the 89th minute, which would have been a nice way to get the equalizer, but it didn't really have much of a chance. And then like there was the one other play I thought that was notable. There was a nice little interchange between Ferreira and Kalani. Maybe that was the one that was more like the 55th minute. And Ferreira gets absolutely cleaned out. And they end up calling a goal kick, which I thought was very odd because to me, it seemed very obvious that either you thought Justin Hack got the ball or Glesnes got the ball and it should be a corner kick, or he didn't get the ball and it's a stone cold penalty. And there was no call there. But again, if we're sitting here complaining about 1 or 2 calls, it's not, they didn't do well enough. The Sounders needed to generate a lot more than they did.
Yeah, this is a game where I think you don't have to squint too hard to talk yourself into thinking, they could have gotten a point with this exact same performance on another day. But that's not
good enough.
That's not good enough against this Galaxy team. It's you just can't leave yourself that kind of margin of error against bad teams. If you're dropping points against bad teams, it needs to be a result like the San Diego game where you just get unlucky, right? It doesn't need to be, we gave up a goal in the 23rd minute or whatever it is, and that was just kind of it. We didn't really do a whole lot after that, especially at home, especially going into a break, especially, with you don't have a midweek game this week. You can afford to empty the tank, I think, a little bit. So, just a really frustrating one. And I know that part of my reaction is probably irrational, but this team grinding out results and maybe overperforming their underlying numbers a little bit, and then hitting this wall where they play really well and don't get results, and then they have a stinker like this, and that leading to that is a thing we've seen, from this team more than once over the past decade. And so it makes me a little nervous to see that playing out. Now, if they go down to LA, they get a win there. They go into the break on a high note. Probably not a huge concern. If they go into the break on a low note, at least they're going into a break, I guess, right? Like it's they don't have to worry about it snowballing in the same way. They have I mean, it's crazy that this break is going to be so long that by the time they play another game, they will have had the opportunity to add a player, I think, right? Like
Yamar, Pedro, and they even could sign a player from outside the league by the time the next, or acquired a player from
trade
within the league, I suppose. But they could, and it's a very long break, and I would like, hopefully the Sounders don't waste this great start, and because they're currently off their best ever start pace, which not far off, but it's, they're not too far off from really getting far off. It's like, this becomes a very normal start if they lose the Galaxy or the LAFC game. And look, this felt like it could be a really good season. I think this is a good roster. I mean, I don't think I'm not breaking any news by saying it would be nice for them to get a better result in LAFC. I do want to talk a little bit about the defense in this one. The goal they gave up was not, I wouldn't say indicative of the kind of goal that they've allowed this year, but it was a sloppy play.
The first goal, I assume you're talking about.
The first goal. Yeah. The second goal, I whatever. I'm not.
Who cares?
You're chasing the game. Like, shit happens, right? I'm not super worried about that. Although I am frustrated a little bit with Jackson Reagan's turnover, but I'm more frustrated with Jackson Reagan's line in the first goal. Watch the replay of this, and the thing that jumps out is Jackson Reagan is, no joke, 5 yards deeper than the next closest defender. He is on the, and I didn't really break it down why he's even on that side of the field, but somehow he gets caught up following Gabriel Peck all around when all he had to do was just step a little bit. I don't understand why he is so much deeper than every other defender on that play, and all the other 3 defenders are all lined up. So something is clearly off here. And credit to Marco Royce for making a spectacular pass. And it is a beautiful pass. And I suppose you could argue that Hassani or someone else could have closed him down a little bit better, but he's 45 yards away from goal. You're not really worried. You're not thinking that's the primary threat there. And I for the life of me don't know what Jackson Reagan is doing on that play.
Yeah, it was definitely just an uncharacteristic performance from him generally. I think that it's perplexing to see because he's been such a consistent defender, throughout his career, especially over the last couple of years. But he's not immune from a stinker, right? So it's maybe not unprecedented. But he's played a lot of minutes this year. He's played in all but one game, I think. Close to 1,000 minutes. Only Nuhu and Andrew Thomas have played more. And I do wonder if he just needs a break. I don't know. Center backs, I don't think should really need a break 12 games into the season. But I mean, I guess it's possible that he, is fatigued or just had one of those days. I don't know. Because it was just, those are not the kind of positional mistakes or not the kind of mistakes he tends to make. Right.
No, that's sort of his one of the things that he excels at is just his positioning, because he's not really the fastest guy. And as I'm watching this, I just decided to watch it again just to make sure. I have no idea what he somehow gets caught up in tracking Peck, and there's not really a good excuse for it. It's like, look, is it excusable in a very, this kind of thing happens in soccer? Sure. But a MLS Defender of the Year candidate should not be caught that far from his.
It's not the guy you want to see making those mistakes. That's for sure.
No, exactly. I just felt like I had to go back and make sure I wasn't missing something obvious, but no, there was nothing obvious that I missed there. He just gets caught up sort of running after a guy. But other than that, I guess defensively, they weren't a mess. They were maybe a little, they could have given up more than one goal. It wasn't like a great defensive performance.
Well, they did give up
They did. I guess they did.
But
right.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah. There was they had some other looks, but and they were aggressive. They held a high, they were pressing, they created some high turnovers, but that is, I guess, in some ways, it's also indicative of the struggles that they've had this year and going back to last year, they do a good job of creating high turnovers. They don't do a great job of converting those high turnovers into scoring opportunities.
Right.
And that was again the case here where, even though they were pinning the Galaxy back at times, they weren't really doing a lot with all that pressure.
No, they weren't. And I think that's the frustrating thing about games like this is that it's not like there are some games that are bad games where they just don't look up for the game. They don't look like themselves. You can tell they're tired, whatever it is, right? And in this game, it was the Sounders that we've come to expect, but just like 80% of it.
Right.
Right. Like they were going through the motions of doing all the same things they usually do and succeed at, and none of it was coming off. And like not creating any kind of pressure from the high press, making these uncharacteristic defensive mistakes where the way that they play, you kind of have to be pretty on point defensively, positionally. You can't really allow the opposition extra space because there's not going to be anybody to cover for you there. And there's going to be a lot of room between, you and the goalkeeper. And it was just a poor execution. And those games are almost more frustrating for me because everybody has an off day where things just don't go right. But it was just, it didn't feel like that, right? It was just like
right.
the cutting edge was missing. And those games, I think, are the most frustrating because I think they have the most potential to sort of linger with a team where it's like, well, we tried that and it didn't work last time. Right. And that's the thing that concerns me. But
yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I mean, and I think if anything else, it sort of like just brings up a lot of anxiety about, like, to your point, like this is a team that was overperforming their metrics, but it did feel vaguely sustainable in that it wasn't like they were pulling wins out of their asses. It was like they were scoring early and then sitting on a lead. And one of the things that's been consistent in these all three of the home games is that they gave up the first goal in all three of them. And so they played from behind against San Diego, they played from behind against San Jose, and then they were playing again from behind against the Galaxy. And that's just not, for as good as this defense is, they have been not doing themselves as many favors as they could be. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you certainly can't go through a whole season. You're not going to win a Supporters' Shield by giving up the first goal 3 games in a row. A lot of time, doing it repeatedly.
Yeah, I do like, and I think if you look at what these last 3 games especially have done to where the Sounders sit in terms of, defensive XG and all that kind of stuff, they don't look like an elite defensive team anymore. I would say they're still very good.
They look like a good defensive team, but yeah, not elite. You're right.
And they're not scoring enough goals. They're not creating enough to be elite if they're not elite defensively. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with this model of the team is that they have to be exceptional defensively to be at the top of their game. They can't get away with, with not being that way. And when you have your primary competition is Vancouver, who is elite defensively and also is elite in the attack.
Yeah.
You just, you can't really afford to slip behind. And it's one of those things until the Sounders are out of the Supporter Shield race, that's the standard I'm holding them to.
Absolutely.
We can recalibrate when they are out of that race and they're playing for playoff positioning and we're just more concerned about how they look going into the playoffs. My standards and what I'm hoping for and what I'm expecting will change. That's just the way it goes. But while they're in the race, I need them to be elite and I need them to be as good as we know that they can be, because I want to stay in that race as long as we can.
Yeah, and I also think there is something to be said about the personnel here is, it can use an upgrade. I think we talked earlier this year about how, it was probably prudent not to make a signing because it wasn't obvious where that signing was going to be best used. But I think at this point we can say definitively that they can use some more offensive firepower. I think Jesus Ferreira is a fine player. Albert Rusnak's a fine player. Jordan Morris is fine. We can go down. There's a lot of good players on this team. Right. And I think on his day, Albert Rusnak can be elite. All these guys, Jesus Ferreira scored an elite goal where he, just sort of took command of the situation. And that's what you need sometimes from those types of players. But they could really use another difference maker offensively, even if it's not someone who is the automatic starter. But if you can bring in another number 9, and I guess maybe that means we're pushing Jordan Morris out to the wing. But I don't think if Jordan Morris isn't your number 9, I don't think it can be so you can get Danny Masovsky or Osaze De Rosario on.
No, no.
That's where it comes down to for me. It's like if you're gonna if Morris is gonna be on the wing, you got to have a real a real top class number 9.
Yeah, you can't tell me that either one of those guys is somebody you would expect to find on a championship caliber team. No disrespect to those guys, no offense to those guys at all.
And I like both players for what they are.
I like that the Sounders have 3 distinct profiles at striker. That's nice. They've got guys that they can plug into different situations that'll give you different things. I like that. They all are. I think they're all performing where you would hope they would be performing, but on a team where you don't have a guy who is your Raul Ruidiaz, Obafemi Martins, that kind of goal scorer that's going to score 14 to 18 goals and just kind of put the team on their back at times. And I don't think you have to have a player like that to be a great team. But if you don't have a player like that, you need goal contributions from lots of different people. And right now, the Sounders aren't really getting that. Like they're getting a goal here or there from a bunch of different guys. They need another guy that can score like 8 to 10 goals over the course of the season.
Yeah.
And I think they have the resources to do that. I think a lot of people look at the amount of allocation money they have and say, look at all the guys they can go sign. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think most of that allocation money is probably going to keeping the team together in future windows. And that's not super exciting, but they have to have the resources to bring in at least one different.
No, there's got to be, and just to throw out a name, because he just got released. But what would you think of like a Daryl DK?
I mean, I don't know. It's not super exciting. I would like it to be more exciting, but with the money,
it does feel like a kind of Sounders-esque move, though, doesn't it?
It does, and like I've defended their strat. I've defended that approach, right? I think that it's paid dividends and it's a good thing. But just once, as a treat, it would be kind of nice to get someone who is not a reclamation project. And I don't know. Maybe Daryl DK doesn't count as a reclamation project. Is a
reclamation. I mean, the reality is that he moved to the championship, I believe, 4 years ago, which is wild to think about.
2022.
He's had basically one productive season since then, and he's been in and out of injury ever since. He is currently healthy as far as I understand it, but he was just released by West Brom, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's there's upside there. He's still only 25 years old. There's a chance it works. I gotta feel like they have the resources to go get somebody who's a little bit more of a sure thing. Now, if they want to sign Daryl DK and like a winger, that's fine. That's great.
Like, we're gonna get greedy. Why not?
But like, how convinced are you that Daryl DK is a meaningful upgrade over Osaze De Rosario at this point?
I'm not. I'll be honest. Right? I don't know that he is, but yeah, he would at least.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if he is. To your point, like I just don't know if I'd like him to be. I mean, his best season is obviously better than Osaze's best season. He's got some. he had some good. He's had some good stretches.
Yeah. I'm just now finding out that Daryl DK is Bright DK's brother. I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Timbers legend Bright DK.
Yeah. He was a pretty good player on his day. Didn't do a ton
I
at
mean,
the
I don't
MLS
know if he
level,
ever played in. He didn't play much time in MLS, but he was an interesting. He was a fun player.
I feel like we saw him a lot in the Open Cup.
Yes, I certainly remember him taking a penalty in the 2010 Open Cup at least.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's a name that's interesting, I suppose. I genuinely would not be at all shocked if he's a player that they went after, but there are some more compelling free agents on the market right now, and so there are guys in MLS I think if you give somebody $2 million worth of allocation, you could probably get a pretty good player, So
I mean, again, this would require a designated player spot, but I wouldn't be shocked if a Dejan Joveljic is available for the right price. Again, that requires a lot of work. Hugo Kuipers may be available if Chicago signs Robert Lewandowski. These are DPs. The Sounders would have to do a lot of work to open up a DP spot. So I don't assume that by any stretch of the imagination. But point is, there's upgrades to be made if they want to make them. I hope that they do. I saw someone sort of half jokingly suggest, I kind of hope they lose to LAFC because that'll light a fire under the front office to sign someone. And I hate to be this guy, but that is not worth hoping for. Like, if they're going to spend money, it's going to happen regardless of what happens to the LAFC game.
Right. I don't think that Adrian is capable of allowing a result to change his mind about anything.
Yeah.
Now maybe the stretch has convinced him that they need to go sign somebody. Yeah. But I think they could go down there and beat LAFC 2-0 and still go sign a guy.
Yeah.
And I would hope so, because every summer window we say they almost need to sign somebody just to keep the pitchforks away, right? And
I think especially in a World Cup year where you're really going to risk losing the attention span of your fans over the next 6 to 8 weeks, and you can't just sit there in the background. I have heard that the Sounders are going to be playing a friendly against Belgium, which I think is going to basically be a semi-closed door thing at Longacres. But that'll be like the only action that there is during this break. So I mean, if nothing else, keep people interested. I'm not above a PR signing at this point.
No. I mean, I think that honestly, I think it could help. I think it could help the team too. Like, these guys are not, the core of this team is not getting younger. I don't know how many more seasons, especially since the next season is the weird sprint season thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more how long the window for this core is. And,
I would agree. Yeah.
And I think that there's something to be said about, all the silverware they've won aside from the Leagues Cup last year. With these guys on the team, it was Nico's team, right? I think Christian's team winning some silverware, some actual league silverware, would be nice for him. I would like to see that, the team that he's the leader of winning a trophy, and I think that going and getting somebody that can help put you over the top would probably do some good mentally for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't we take a break? We'll come back. I'm sure we'll have something else to talk about. I don't know. We'll talk about LAFC. I don't know. Give me some time to think about this, but I'm sure you're going to want to stick around. We at least have some announcements to make. You're listening to No Sadiatis on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Sounder at Heart has been around in one form or another since 2009. In 2026, though, we make a pretty significant evolution when we go analog. Yes, that's right, in the year of our Lord 2026, we are publishing a real-life magazine. We're calling this thing 4, as in Sounder at Heart 4.0, but we're stylizing it as IV because we absolutely love Roman numeral. And if you want to refer to it as IV, that's cool too. The first issue has a comic book style cover that was hand-drawn by local artist Kevin Newber. Features by Tim Foss, Susie Rance, and Charlie Boehm, a statistical deep dive by Kat Bush, a Q&A with Brian Schmetzer, a column by G. Willow Wilson, and photographs by Noah Reif, Max Aquino, Mike Russell, and Jane Dershowitz. I could not possibly be more proud of the work everyone put into making this, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these limited edition copies, we're currently selling them for $15 on our website. Get yours now. Nos Audietis, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code Sounder at Heart, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code Sounder at Heart at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. Welcome back to Nos Audietis on the Sounder at Heart podcast network. Well, we are going to talk about LAFC. We're going to preview this LAFC game, but I wanted to share a few things before we get into that. One of them is we have officially sent the next issue of 4, the Sounder at Heart magazine, to the printer. You can still buy copies. We have plenty left. It's a World Cup issue. Lots of good stuff in there. It's packed with 56 pages of content. It's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself, what we were able to pull together. But those are $15. If you are a subscriber at the supporter level or above, you can get a $5 discount. You can also bundle it with the first issue. You can get both issues for $20. So if you want to do any of that, I would just go to sounderatheart.com. There's a link at the top of the page there, and buy yourself a magazine. Support print journalism. Support actual journalism. And you'll feel good about yourself, and you'll get some good reading. And it's all about stuff that's related to the World Cup in Seattle. The other thing on a similar note is Sounder at Heart is going to be co-hosting a watch party / pregame / post-game live show with Scuffed, which is a U.S. national team podcast. We're going to be doing that around the June 19th U.S. game against Australia. We're going to be doing it at Fast Fashion Brewing. The game is at noon, as you may know. Fast Fashion is going to open up at 8 a.m. that day. And we're probably going to end up spending most of the day there because we're going to do pregame fun stuff. We'll do a watch party during the game if you can't actually get into the game. And then I think we're planning on doing a live post-game show. So that should be a lot of fun. And then the night before, we are going to be doing sort of a meet and greet thing at Project 9 Brewing in Maple Leaf. So if you want to come out and just say hi, there's no programming for that, but at least we're not planning on doing a program. There may be. But if you want to come out and say hi and just meet some cool people, I think it will be a lot of fun. So with all that said, Aaron, let's talk about this LAFC game. LAFC are in a bad way, but that, we know that's not necessarily mean anything for the Sounders, but oh boy. Going back to April 4th when LAFC beat Orlando City 6-0 and they looked like an absolute buzzsaw. They followed that up with a 3-0 win over Cruz Azul in the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals. And it was like, oh, this team is unstoppable. Well, since that game, they have won just once in league play, and they are currently on a 4-game losing streak in all competitions, a 5-game winless run in MLS play, or 4-game winless run in MLS play. And that includes 3 straight losses, most recently on the road against Nashville, but then they lost 2-1 away at St. Louis City, and then they lost 4-1 at home against the Houston Dynamo. A lot of bad results in this. They aren't exactly going up against a murderer's row. There's a 2-1 loss at Portland. There's a 4-1 loss to the Earthquakes, a 0-0 tie against Colorado, and then their one win is a 1-0 win against Minnesota. What has happened to LAFC? This was a team that was just cutting through teams like hot knife through butter early in the year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Mark Dos Santos has had some time to soak in, and they've shaken off the Cherundolo magic dust, and now they're just covered in fraud juice, I think is the problem, would be my guess. I don't know. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of great players, obviously. But they've got a lot of old players too. And that's probably a factor. And they just haven't been great at anything. Like, they haven't been terrible at anything either, really, over the course of the season, but they're certainly not scoring like they have in the past. Their defense has been pretty mediocre. And yeah, this is a brutal run of results. I mean, we spent the first segment bitching about this 4-game stretch for the Sounders, and that 4-game stretch included a win over, a team that has been playing out of their minds, whereas LAFC is just getting battered by some pretty mediocre teams. So
1 point in their last 4 games in league play, and that was a 2-2 tie against San Diego.
Yeah, not great, which is great. It's nice to see. I'm sick to death of LAFC, and I would love it if they slipped into mediocrity for a little bit here, or forever. That's fine too. But I'm sure the Sounders would love to cheer them up and rekindle the rivalry.
I mean, it's still a team.
It won't be easy.
No, I mean, it's still a team that has a lot of talent. Denny Mwanga is not, off. He started the season. This is a team that started on the season on an 11-game unbeaten run, and they were. I mean, I can't overstate how much they were just destroying teams early in the year, and so there's some residuals from that, but Denny Mwanga still as dangerous as ever. David Martinez seems to be really stepping up. Although, I'm like kind of fascinated by this. Sun Heung-min has 8 assists, but no goals yet in MLS play, which is
pretty
just
crazy.
a bizarre turn of events.
Yeah. Set piece goals, maybe? I don't know. But you would certainly expect him to be scoring some goals. You got to think that if he is not scoring goals, they are going to be underperforming, which seems to be what's happening.
Right. Yeah. He's got 2 goals in Champions Cup play. He's got 14 assists.
Yeah. He's,
wild.
He can deliver a ball. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's questioning that, but that's maybe not the breakdown you would love to have.
No.
Is that 14 assists in all comps, or?
That's in all comps. Yeah.
All comps. Yeah. Okay. But 9 in MLS, it looks like. So that's, he has an assist on like
a lot of their goals.
40% of their goals, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe
is this the first time they've played LAFC since Sun has joined them? I think it is.
Yeah, I think it might be. Because he came over towards the end of the summer window last year, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it would be. Which I'm glad we're getting, this version and not the one that we had last year.
He's not played the Sounders yet, so this will be a new experience.
It will. I'm hoping that Peter Kingston doesn't get the start. Right back this week, maybe.
I mean, it's going to be a handful for Kalani Kosarienzi too, right?
It absolutely is. Or maybe Alex. Maybe Alex gets to start it right back.
I mean, maybe. The impression I get is that he's probably out until after the.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's got the hamstring. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the hamstring thing, which came as a surprise to all of us. a deep regret of ours from Friday's press availability. We failed to ask about injuries, and then we found out after training that Alex had done his hamstring. He found out about it apparently right after the game. He played 90 minutes in the game though, so you can excuse us for not catching that one. But yeah.
Not a guy you want to see injured, that's for sure. I never want to hear rolled on and hamstring in the same sentence.
No, I don't either. But yeah, I mean, which is all to say that this is a winnable game for the Sounders. I wouldn't say that they are favored to get a result in this one, but there's no reason they can't. And it would go a long way towards shifting the narrative, even if the narrative is not the most important thing. And but it would be nice to go into the break with some positive vibes, like we said, and kind of goes without saying. But yeah, let's hope they can do it. The Sounders have not won at LAFC in the regular season ever, I don't think.
Yeah, that seems right.
They have won twice in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have ever won in the regular season at LAFC. So that would be another.
Well, they just ended one streak. It'd be nice to end another one,
exactly.
But for, in a positive way against another LA team. So, that would be nice.
No time
treat.
Like the present.
That's right. I mean, I think that a point is a totally reasonable thing to expect out of this game. I don't expect LAFC to play this poorly the whole season. I don't expect them to finish 7th and just barely sneak into the playoffs. I think that they'll, be in the top 3 or 4 at very least coming into the season. But they're not playing well right now. They're probably just trying to limp into the break themselves. And I think that you've got to be motivated for this game. You've got to be up for this game after the Galaxy result. And Sounders have been great on the road this year. They've only got the one loss on the road. So I think it is totally reasonable to expect them to get a point. And I don't think a win is off the table, but my expectations have been tampered a little bit where I don't think I'm necessarily going into this game, expecting a win or hoping for a win. Hoping for a win, obviously, but not expecting a win.
Yeah, well, on that great note, we should probably put a pin in it. Thanks to everyone for listening. We'll have lots of content, I promise. So it's not like we're saying goodbye or anything, but it's whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just going to get us out of here. Thank you to our sponsor, Full Pool Wines. Thank you to all of you loyal listeners and subscribers. Again, if you want to do more to support Sounder at Heart, I really want to urge everyone to go out and buy the new issue of the Sounder at Heart magazine. We put a lot of good work into that. A lot of, I think people will be really happy with everything that's in there. I also wanted to give a shout out to our new partners at Soccer Wise. We're starting to do more stuff with them. You're going to be hearing more from David Goss. We have a midweek show that we're going to be doing with him on a regular basis. That should be fun. So I wanted to say, give a shout out for that. Of course, we are also starting to move more of our video content onto Lobbing Scorchers. So you can go onto YouTube. And even though this show, we aren't sure if we're going to start doing video on this specific show, but we're going to have more Nos Odietes video content up on Lobbing Scorchers as time goes on. Anyway, with all that said, I am Jermiah O'Shan, getting out of here for Aaron Campo and Lickett. This is Nos Odietes, part of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. And remember, you'll never yet alone.
Let's go Sounders. Yeah.